So now that you guys have sort of parted ways, and you're with Viva, before what's the plan for the group? Because I mean, we'll look at Overjoyed and other things, but do you have plans to? You said you finished an album,
Yes, yes.
touring.
We've recorded for the last couple of years. We've recorded a lot of wonderful songs. We've only released a couple of singles just to kind of give people an idea of what we're up to.
Yeah.
But basically, we plan to finish an album and release it. We're independent at this point. We're not necessarily thirsty for a major label record deal. However, you know, there is a such thing as an offer we can't refuse. But at this time, the group invests our resources. We each put up what we can to make things happen. And shout out to Eddie Craze Garcia, because he's the one in the group who's been like the lead investor, and he brought me in. Basically, he would not stop until we sat down and talked about working together. And everyone in Viva Mas, like you're talking about playing roles,
Yeah.
everyone in the difference between the As Yet situation and this situation is that Viva Mas has been together almost as long as Yet.
Oh.
And they've done a lot of things, like they've sang, you know, for the Pope. They've opened for Pitbull. Like, you know, they've done a lot of wonderful things here. They're known and respected here in the city. And they have members who've also been in other popular groups here in America. But the difference is we're doing this for the love of music, making quality music. We produce our own records. We choose, and when someone else sends us a song, whether we write it or they write it, we go into the studio with our own money and we sit down and we don't leave until it's right. We mix it and master it with the best people we can find right here in Philadelphia. Cambridge Sounds is one of the Cambridge Sound Studios, which also, you know, is home to some of the greatest Philly legends like Kathy Sledge, you know, Levert and the OJs, True. They're not from Philly, but still a lot of great artists have recorded at the studio. And then hopefully people will see what we do on our own and see that all they have to do is co-sign and maybe, you know, invest in it to take the promotion to the next level.
Yeah.
And we can do what I set out to do when I got into music, which was to follow my heart, make something I believe in.
Yeah.
And I'm not against sharing with anyone, whether it be creatively co-writing or breaking bread. But there's different types of artists. Like, you know, when boy bands are put together by, you know, those guys, those Svengalis who put together these groups.
Yeah.
Then you just show up and sing like the K-pop bands where you're just a vehicle. But when you have something to say musically and you're driven by your love for it, it's just a whole nother energy, man. We're brothers. We are brothers. We all happen to be Puerto Rican, but you know, like no two of us are alike anyway. So
yeah,
I mean,
was going
that's
to
the
ask that because you came from, you know, when I first saw As Yet and the video, and I saw you, I thought you were no different from Dion, just light skin, because you know Americans.
You know what? Let me break this down for you. This is a perfect opportunity to educate those viewers who, especially in the UK, because there are very few Puerto Ricans in the UK.
Yeah.
Our heritage as Puerto Ricans on the island is African, Taino, and Spaniard. So technically, we are light-skinned Black, some of us, most of us, many of us. However, culturally, there are those who only speak Spanish, those who are anglicized, and everything in between. So there's a diaspora within a diaspora of Afro-Caribbeans. If you see me with long hair, I've had a big old afro. Okay. So my thing is, I do understand the differences and the nuances between being a Puerto Rican of African descent as well as, and yes, there are those who are more Afro than me and more Anglo than me. However, I embrace all of it and I choose to accept all of it. And, you know, I was proud to be on the cover of Black Beat magazine. I was proud to sing in gospel choir, proud to be on the Apollo, proud of all of it. Like, it's not about trying to be something or pretending to be or denying anything.
Yeah. Was it ever, did you have, when you were in As Yet, was there any pushback saying, oh, you're not one of the, you and
You know what?
Black?
I never, okay. I never got it, to be fair, right?
Mm.
Maybe jokingly sometimes I might have gotten a few jokes here and there, but nothing worse than, I never got the sense from inside the group that anyone was specifically discriminating against me. I mean, I get the jokes, but my life culturally from day one has always been from a perspective of seeing things through the window of what it is like to be a person of color in America, a Black American, a Latino. And I understand, I'd be stupid to say, hey, it's obvious that I have some, Spaniard, some European features, but the concept of whiteness is this illusion that basically is perpetuated here in the United States, and I'm not fooled by any of it.
Yeah. This would lead us to a point where you got to do some work with Maya Angelou, legendary poet and literary giant. How did that come about?
So I used to listen to her. Like, she used to have commercials for the United Negro College Fund, and like in school, it's kind of like required reading, like a lot of poetry recitals, somebody would perform Phenomenal Woman or Still I Rise. So I knew of her peripherally, but then I was kind of in a funk after the As Yet thing kind of died down. We weren't making enough to even sustain ourselves without taking on day jobs, which is tough. This is why a lot of artists fall, because they've gotten so used to being that you can't just go take a job, at the Foot Locker after you've been a celebrity. So I took a job at a movie studio out in the middle of nowhere, like a B movie studio, I'll say. And I was feeling kind of depressed, and I was in the storage room, and I had played one of this audio cassette of Maya Angelou reading Brave and Startling Truth, and it like made me cry, just like something about the way she was saying things. And I'm like, wow, like that's really moving. I want to know more about, let me just dig into her a little more, because something about her is so compelling. So then when I read her autobiography, I snapped out of my funk. I was like, hold on a minute. I have no right to complain about anything in life, because she has suffered more than I ever will, so that I won't have to. And I just had this thing. I was like, if there's a way that I can get this feeling that she's giving me into my music and share it with others from another generation, because I had, at the time, I had my daughter, she was probably about 8. And I thought, what, she needs this for her. And how I got to work with Maya was, I basically, after I'd heard her music and her poetry, right, the idea was in my head. Then I got hired to do a blues festival in Italy. And while I was in Italy, one of my friends who was a keyboard player, Alex Alessandroni, he was the music director for Pink and for Christina Aguilera, for Bobby Brown, for James Brown. I mean, not James Brown, but Rick James, you name it. This guy was like, he's still one of the most awesome music MDs ever. Natalie Cole's MD. He said, my mother-in-law is out in Italy. His father at the time was the late great Alessandroni. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That
yeah.
The Whistler. I can't whistle, but the Whistler. So that was his dad. So I went to go visit them in Italy in between my touring, and I'm in the living room, and I see this picture of Margaret Courtney Clark standing with Dr. Maya Angelou. And I said, oh, that's great. You got to meet Dr. Angelou? She said, I wrote 4 books with Dr. Angelou. And I said, I always wanted to make music, set her poetry to music. And she looked at me and said, do it. Like that. And I was like, uh-oh, now I got to do it, because she didn't promise me anything. But I knew that if she said do it and I did it, there was just a slight chance that I might be able to get it to Dr. Angelou. Make a long story short, I went back in the studio and I printed out her poetry, just from the collected poems. And I used to do poetry spoken word at 5th Street Dix, Leimert Park in Philly. It's like this, I mean, Philly, Leimert Park in Los Angeles. That has this big spoken word scene. So when I was, one of my shticks was to print out poetry and throw it on the floor and just pick out whichever poem and just recite it. That way it kept it fresh and unexpected. So I threw some poems on the floor, I picked one up, and Still I Rise was one of them. And I had Simone Cello sitting with his guitar, and I just started singing the poetry. And he started playing, and we started recording, and it started happening. And then I didn't have any money like that. I mean, like real money to pay all these guys, but they were such big fans of Maya Angelou that everybody recorded for free. And then a good friend of mine named Troy Hinton, he was working at the studio too. He said, hey, you should play this, you know, for my peoples, my mother and, you know, his friend, I'm sorry, Smooch Music. The label, he was, well, still is, the daughter of the CEO of Smooch Music, the son of, I'm getting this all backwards, the son of the president of the label. I didn't know that his mom had a label. All I knew was, sure, you want somebody who's going to invest in this thing because maybe I can pay the lawyers or something to try to get this thing happening. So it took 7 years from the time that project started to get it into the hands of Maya Angelou. And next thing you know, we're sitting in her living room and she's singing and performing to us. And I actually got a chance to work with her before she passed. It was her last musical project before she passed away. God rest her soul.
My goodness.
Dr. Angelou. So the album is called Cage Bird Songs. And I took her poetry from audiobooks, from live performances and pre-recorded performances, and lined it up with live music in such a way that it sounds like she went in the studio and recorded it herself.
My goodness. I mean, that's you know, not many people have had a chance to see it, but to actually work with her in that way, and the fact that it came by you being bold and stepping forward and stuff. You know, what's really been fascinating is the fact that you know, we started off with a picture of a challenging upbringing, but then how music and school in a way gave you a vision despite your limited vision of your background. When you talk about the sound and the sight, I remember one of my favorite Marvel characters was Daredevil. Couldn't see, but he could see better than everyone else because of his hearing and the sonic and stuff. But he was able to see much clearly than the person who couldn't see, just because of being sensitive to things around. So as you were saying, sharing your story, I was just saying, oh, that's like Daredevil kind of thing. But also, you know, I guess it's very quite disappointing hearing, and it's not, I don't think from my view it'll be surprising to hear the sort of tales behind the scenes of the label, with the group, within the group, because we've heard so many in such, you know, sad stories. Sometimes it's about someone taking all the publishing and manager taking all the money, infighting within the group and stuff. But you guys also, unfortunately, it was by the time you were ready for your second and third album, there was a shift in the industry where R&B was being drowned out for hip hop, for some very strange reason.
I still love the group. I don't want anyone to think that like I'm bitter or something. It's just, you know, I never spoke out on it until I saw that they literally took credit for my work. And that really, it hurt my heart because I still consider them brothers. But the truth is the truth. And as far as the industry shifting, that's to be expected. And one of the most frustrating things about that first album was that as a group, we came from the inner city. The hip hop was part of our lives. I used to break dance with my windbreaker and doing handspins. And like, we used to rap and sing together in dimension and sound. Like even Claude Thomas, little shy Claude Thomas used to rap. You know what I'm saying? But they wouldn't put that on our record because we were competing with Boys to Men. When I said we wanted to go in another direction, we wanted to be who we were, to reflect all of that. And this is before Lauryn Hill, before a lot of artists were mixing. Now all the rappers want to sing and all the singers want to rap. But back then it was like, no, singer sing, and then you bring in a guest artist for the
Yeah.
Hot 16. You know, like the formula didn't allow for that. And we were ahead of our time. But
Yeah.
when you're ahead of your time, you're supposed to stick to your guns until they catch up. You don't just give up and get
Yeah.
along, you know, go along to get along.
Yeah. No, you're right. But then also the sides within within the industry where you think you're getting all these free things, you think all this promotional stuff, labels really trying, but not realizing that it's almost like taking your credit card and charging, and
Yep.
eventually at the end of the month you're gonna have to pay it back. Um, I mean, when can we look forward to seeing the stuff from your new group? Because as I said, it's and what I'll do is after this check here, hopefully try and point people to the video of, you said, Overjoyed.
Yes, well, we have 2 singles currently as the Viva Mas, Viva space MAS. Viva Mas on YouTube has so many songs even before I joined. They even covered Boyz II Men in Spanish before I joined. But the 2 newest singles are Lost in You, which is a remake of the Chris Gaines, Garth Brooks song, and Overjoyed a cappella. So if you type in Overjoyed, Viva Mas, you'll find that those are our 2 most current singles, Lost in You and Overjoyed. Also, there's vivamasmusic.com, which has the bios and the pictures, and we're actually, you know, in the process of adding. We just did a new photo shoot. And also with the Maya Angelou project, you can find it on cagebirdsongs.com. There's all sorts of wonderful, that album has been out, but there's a couple of new remixes that have just been done for 2021. Given the social justice awareness that has come about, we've revisited the music and have a new video for Still I Rise. And also Oprah Winfrey's network co-produced a video for Harlem Hopscotch that features Zendaya and Alfonso Ribeiro and Nia Peoples and a bunch of other America's Best Dance Crew.
Wow.
So you can find it all online.
You know, it's fascinating because it's unlike before when, you know, you're behind a label and there's lots of promotion and out there, but this era has changed where things are being streamed. You play it on YouTube and it collects its analytics and stuff like that. Do you guys plan to release your stuff digitally, or do you plan to actually put stuff on vinyl and expect people to buy?
Well, I think we're going to do a little of everything, even NFTs. Are you hip to those? We're probably going to do all of it. But right now, we do have our music. Well, with Viva Mas's music, it's on digital platforms. I have a few solo things that are out there too, but you know, like Spotify and iTunes Music, Apple Music, and all that. It's out there. But also, you can buy physical copies of some of our music on Amazon. They have they still do CDs with artwork and everything, especially the deluxe edition of Cage Bird Songs. It has all this artwork that was done by Alan Aldridge, who did the Hard Rock Cafe logo, the House of Blues logo, Captain Fantastic album for Elton John, you name it. This guy has done this Beatles album covers. So you can get all this fantastic artwork, physical things you can hold in your hand. Viva Mas, we're going to finish the album and release it on as many formats as possible. And should we choose to sign with a label, we will, you know, negotiate how to release in this new paradigm and see what happens.
You've just finally, has the joy of music come back? You know, the performance.
I'm sorry for putting you to sleep with all my boring stories, man.
No. Has the joy of the music come back after all these years of the industry and stuff? Has it?
You know what? I really did for a while, especially after the divorce, and you know, I took some time to really regather myself, and I really did at one point consider not making music as a living, for a living.
Wow.
But I've reached a point now where I believe in myself enough to know that whatever I set my mind to, I can do for a living. Doesn't have to be for a lifetime. I'm good at other things, and that's great. However, music keeps calling me, and I've realized now, thanks to Viva Mas, they've given me an excuse to love music again, and not just a cappella harmonies, and not just R&B, but just the creative process of, you know, bringing something within. Birds fly because they're born with wings, and there's no need to even try. You know, sometimes you just got to push yourself off that ledge and keep on flapping. So and my kids, they inspire me the most, like just to see the pride on their faces and, to know that what will be left to share with them is what their daddy left behind. And some people have statues named after them, and just make music.
Yeah, just make music. I mean, people. So with the current 4 members of the group, Marc and some of the other old members.
Marc's not in the group right now.
No. I was saying, so you've got the current 4 members. You've got people, Marc
okay,
who's left. You've got others who have also come and gone. What's your relationship with them, just on a personal? Because these are people you've known since you were kids. Oh well, a long time.
I spoke to Marc recently. I mentioned Marc first because I spoke to him recently, and we talked about the possibility of working together again at some point creatively. We've actually vibed better creatively than we have personally, and he knows that too. Shawn Benson, I'm working on some music with him. Again, he's someone I've known from the very, very, very beginning. And even though he's no longer in as yet, we still talk. And as a matter of fact, when he came here to Philadelphia, we broke bread, and I met his lovely wife and his son, and they're great people. I have not spoken personally to the current members that are in Vegas. I have not spoken to Dion, Claude, Kenny, or Paris, who I haven't met yet. A very talented guy who I guess he would say he took my place in the sense of when I left, he's the next guy that came in. And he used to work with Teddy Riley. Well, you interviewed him, so you know. But yeah, I mean, my thing is, I don't want to disappoint the fans if they ask, is there, a chance you'll ever get back together? I'll say there's always a possibility, but not a probability.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching.